You guys ready? Call to order the St. Joseph City Council of Monday, August 2nd. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2, Oath of Office.
Oh,
Anybody got a camera? Kelly, got a camera? I mean, Kayla? Lori? Anybody? Oh, thank you.
yes.
Repeat after me. I, John Hazen,
I, John Hazen,
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully
and to discharge faithfully
the duties of the office of council member of the City of St. Joseph, Minnesota,
the duties of the office of council member of the City of St. Joseph,
Close
to the
enough.
best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you.
Mom, kids, get up there, take a picture. Serious, serious, serious. Take a picture. Get up there, take a picture. Absolutely. It's only. We just saw this in the St. Cloud Times. Yeah, you can sit. You can sit in the chair.
Kayla, make sure you get Mom in there too.
Yeah, where's Mom?
Yeah.
Steph.
Get
Stephanie.
Mom. Do one with the family and one with
Come
the-
on.
Hey, it's a monumentous occasion.
She was.
One with and one without.
Yeah, I am here too. Now, what do you think?
Absolutely. Take a look. Smile. Very good. Thank you. I can't help you there, buddy. All right, moving on. Item 3, public comments. Anybody wishing to address the council, come to the podium, name, address. Hey, Tim, glad you're coming in again.
My name is Tim Morris, I live at 11th Avenue Northwest, 363-4769, if anybody wants to call me. I noticed they put white lines up on the alley between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. I'm guessing that's gonna be cut away shortly with, which I now see that they have a resolution for the alley vacation on here. Which my understanding was you need to get with the property owners on both sides to okay this or however this works. I'm still not in favor of it at all. I've got Stan here, he's the same. He's one of the owners in that property. I did have a meeting with Bob today. Thank you for Bob for at least listening to me. I have had nobody on this council that really, I expressed my feelings last time on this. It seemed to just go in one ear out the other. On Sunday, yesterday, I was just working out in the yard. There was 33 kids on 3rd Avenue, on my street, either riding bikes, walking, or whatever. So I really wish somebody would at least, you've never even been over in my neighborhood. I lived there, lived there my whole entire life. I know exactly what goes on in that neighborhood. I know the ballpark, I know the alleys, I know the kids, I know the students, I know everybody. Which I wish somebody would come and ask me, you know, what do I think about this project in this area, you know, because I do, I know more than anybody else does. And with talking with Bob, I got a little bit of input, you know, from him on what he thought. I'm really still concerned about making, if you close that alley off, you're gonna make it one big U or such, an L. And actually this morning when I was looking for Bob, I actually was coming down one road and I abutted another person on that road. The road is not wide enough for two people to pass on there. So now you really make it tight. You're gonna make it like a road, but it's not a big enough road to get two people to go by on it. And that's what you're making this problem area, what's gonna happen, is that you're gonna have people coming from 3rd Street, 3rd Avenue, and from 2nd Avenue. and they're gonna be stuck in the middle, so you're either gonna be, and there's no room to really make it bigger. So with this issue, at least you have a way out, which is that alleyway onto Minnesota Street. So if you are butting heads with somebody in there, you got a way out. Doesn't make any, there is no reason to close this alley off, absolutely none. It serves no purpose. You know, we talk about, you know, all the parking that goes on the ballpark side of the hill. I talked to Randy about that. You know, it's like we've got parking issues around that whole ballpark. And then we're gonna still continue to have these parking problems. And the tar is gonna get ruined. I try to express that with Bob. It's like, when they keep parking over this, they're gonna get off the tar, back on the tar, off the tar, back on the tar, off the tar. It's gonna ruin, and then we just waste money. I hate wasting taxpayers' money. And I don't wanna have that curb cut at all and waste more taxpayer money until we for sure have the resolution that we can vacate that alley. I don't think it needs to be done. And the final thing is I'm still kind of, which I talked to Randy with too also, is I'm still not quite sure if we always start a project in the middle and we never started from the beginning. So I'm wondering between the alley between my house around Krusbach's, the very beginning of the alley, which has a slip in it right now for the sewer line, which I think is only gonna be good for 5 years. And why we're not doing it now? Let's do it right the first time instead of wrecking all the tar, bringing all the heavy equipment back in and doing it later in 5 years if it fails. You know, so I don't understand. So somebody's gotta at least talk to me and explain to me what their thoughts are, why this doesn't seem right to me. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Anyone else wishing to? Absolutely.
My name is Stephen May. Me and my wife Kathy own 211 West Minnesota Street, right before Tim's place there. And I made my notes, but Tim pretty much took care of everything I was gonna say. But yeah, I'm dead against closing that down, the entry to Block 7. He kind of touched on a real important issue with people parking on that alley from the ballpark. Okay, there's like 10 vehicles parked there on a ball game day. They're all facing south. So you close that Minnesota Street exit off, they're in their vehicle, they gotta back out in reverse. And I think if you got someone going in reverse where there's pedestrians, people running through to get to their cars, you're asking for trouble. Somebody's gonna get hurt. And we don't want that. So another issue would be the snow removal. I gotta come in from that south entrance with my plow truck, 8-foot plow, western plow. I push everything to the north onto the volleyball court there. And it sits there and it melts and we're good because it's out of the way, nothing else. If we get like a northwest wind with any amount of snow in that alley left there, it drifts out onto the sidewalk parallel with Minnesota Street. And then we got a drift there, and it hasn't snowed for 3 weeks, but I still have a drift there. So then we get written up for not having our sidewalk cleaned because of the snow that's left in the alley. Well, I need to get all of that out from the south and then push it that way. I can't come up to a dead end with a plow. You have a 3-foot bank there, you know, other than shoveling it. And then the sidewalk that's parallel with the house north and south, the snow in there gets shoveled off onto the alley. I take my plow truck and I get it out of there. I'm not gonna put it up against the house. You'll have water issues in your basement, so. Another thing, the students, or the tenants that move in and out, I mean, if you close that down, they can't come in from the ballpark way and back a U-Haul trailer in there. They're not capable of doing that because they've never really done it before, and it's tough for them. Like anybody else, to back a vehicle trailer, that's tough. Here they come off Minnesota Street, they come into the entrance, right there in the alley, they unload. If they have that entry blocked off, they're gonna unload on Minnesota Street, and they have tables, beds, everything sitting out on Minnesota Street, which I think is a huge safety issue on that. So I think if the city wants to, so it's kind of hip on putting a curb in, just go down to the next one to the west, right next to 215. that entry there is just a private entry, and the garage has been gone there for years, so no one uses that, so let's take this money and just move it down a little bit and just leave ours alone. So I hope you reconsider closing that entry down, because I think it's gonna be just a lot of issues that are gonna evolve off of it. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak tonight? Seeing no one else come forward. I lost my place. Oh, yeah.
My name is Frank Ossendorf, and I reside at 615 7th Avenue Northeast in St. Joe. I'm a member of the committee that's been asked to plan the community center in St. Joe. Some of us on this committee have been at it for years. This project has gone on and on and on and on. I think now we're probably getting to the point where a decision is going to be made. We were at the committee, by the way, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not designated as a committee spokesman, so that is clear. I'm speaking for myself. We were asked as a committee to evaluate 4 architectural firms and make a selection to be forwarded on. We took an evening and listened to 4 different architectural firms make their presentation. We took another evening and discussed the merits of each of those proposals. And I think, Therese, did you write the memo dated July 7th? Excellent job, by the way. She did a good job of delineating the reasons why we made the choice that we did. I'm not going to review those. I'm sure you've all had the memo and have had a chance to read it. Following that, I made a personal phone call to two of the cities that utilize the services of the company that we are recommending. The first was Golden Valley Brookview Community Center, and I spoke with Rick Bernal, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation, and he spoke so fast I couldn't possibly keep up writing down all the things he had to say, but I did capture a few of his comments. He said the project was extremely successful. He said it was on time and it was under budget. I think those are 2 key phrases, on time and under budget. He said that HGA, which is the team we're talking about, was excellent to work with and that it was a good fit. They facilitated a community task force to determine what the community wanted. They facilitated 4 community meetings, brought people together to determine what it was they wanted in this building. The plan was revised following each of those meetings to give you some idea of the flexibility that HGA was involved with. The architecture firm listened well. They were very patient. Again, these are words from Rick Murnell. All of the architectural bids were competitive. The square footage of the building was 38,000 square feet and came in at 14 million, so not decidedly different from what we're dealing with here. The second was St. Louis Park. St. Louis Park City, Jason West, who was the recreational superintendent. He said HGA was a fantastic group to work with. They listened well. Theirs is a net zero building, which I understand means they have a very minimal carbon footprint. They worked well as a team. One of the things that stood out for him that he mentioned repeatedly was all the disciplines were under one roof. He said it was very, very easy to work with an organization where everything was together in one place. St. Louis Park did a nationwide search for their architect, and they came up with HGA as their choice. Their building is 13,500 square feet. It was 12.5 million. Early on in this project, Mayor Schultz made a statement to the committee saying this was going to be a citizens project, not a top-down administration project. Folks, the citizens have done their due diligence. We evaluated what you asked, we did what you asked us to do. We evaluated 4 architectural firms, and we made a choice. And we forwarded that choice on to you, and I hope that you folks will follow along with our recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Very good. Item 4, agenda, approval of the agenda.
Second?
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any additional changes? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 5, consent agenda.
Second?
Motion and second on the consent agenda. Just a question is, we have a resolution. What date was that in the, are we setting the date?
Yes, September 7th.
Very good, thank you. Motion and second on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, public hearing, delinquent accounts.
Good evening. Here we are again with another public hearing for delinquent accounts. Some of these are utility accounts, some of them are just general invoicing that have lapsed and are now past due. As you may be aware, when the pandemic was at its height, we were not shutting off water services, and a few accounts have gone past due. In the city's ordinance, any account that's past three periods past due, then we would possibly or consider certifying those to the county to be collected with taxes. We do have a few accounts that have reached that threshold from the last billing, plus a couple miscellaneous accounts that are past due, and we're also recommending certifying those. Looking this morning, there are actually 3 accounts that were paid in full and caught up, and so the remaining balance that's unpaid at this point is $2,768.10. Staff is recommending we certify those with a 1-year payment and waiving the $50 assessment fee that we normally assess on any parcel that gets certified to the county, but these already are a hardship I'm anticipating or guessing for some of these people, so adding another $50 might just make it even more difficult for them to try to pay. We will still give them 30 days to pay before I would send them to the county, and after that date, it just will be due with taxes. So with that, I don't know, public hearing is warranted for the consideration.
That being said, we'll open up the public hearing, delinquent accounts, proposed assessment. Anybody wish to address that, please come to the podium. See you know, come forward. We're going to close the public hearing and then entertain motions.
I move to accept.
There's a resolution number,
So sorry, I move to accept the,
Resolution 2021-41, adopting the assessment outstanding invoice.
thank you, Rick.
And I'll second that. Motion and second, Resolution 2021-41, adopting the assessment outstanding invoices. Further questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does carry. Thank you, Lori. Item 7, 502.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. For your consideration this evening is a proposed change to the signage code. This is coming back to you after direction from the council at the July 6th council meeting. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the sign ordinance and did conduct a public hearing back in May on the change. So the change that we are proposing is to amend the code to put in language that prohibits dynamic displays or electronic signage in the downtown area, the B1 district, and then the downtown service signage area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions should you have them. Otherwise, we'd be looking for 2 motions. The second motion is dependent on support of the first motion for approving the ordinance 2021-011.
So to get this moving, I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2021-11, amending the 502, section 50211.
Second.
Motion and second, Bob seconded.
Okay.
So Nate, I have just a couple of questions. Is there a problem with illuminated signs downtown?
So there was concern expressed in regards to that and changing the character of the downtown district. What we're doing is following the recommendations from the 2007 Downtown Design Standards Plan to keep that character intact.
Yep, so the 2007 Design Standards Plan is a point-in-time design standards, not comprehensive, it's not evergreen, it doesn't get changed. It's 15 years old. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, but I'm concerned that we're taking design standards that are 15 years old and trying to apply them to today's standard. And the perfect apples to oranges comparison I'll give you is in 2006, I bought a Lake home. And we gave it all the latest, greatest in 2006, with cable and phone landlines and all those other things. Today we stream it, we Bluetooth it, we do everything, or Bluetooth it, everything else. So over the course of 15 years, things have changed quite a bit. So I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying I'm not sure we should use a 15-year document to set our today's standards on. And on that document, if you look at that document, we've done quite a bit of that document already. We should actually evaluate what we have done right, and then maybe make that evergreen again, versus just picking and choosing kind of, this one fits because somebody got a problem today, or whatever the concern might have been. So again, I'm not opposed to this ordinance change, but at the same time, that document's quite old. And it hasn't been updated in 15 years. Those are my concerns or questions. Anybody else?
I have a concern of just prohibiting the standard of today as electronic signs or digital displays. You know, that would prohibit from, keeping up with the times and whatever. And downtown, I don't see any light intrusion, unless it's too big, where it's gonna light up the church parking lot or interfere with the nuns' breakfast or something like that, who knows? But I think there's a happy medium in there where you can allow the modern digital display versus the old-fashioned, light hanging over a building, shining onto a sign.
Yeah, the reason I suggest you may want to revisit it, because it does have some, mention to historical references, historical lighting, the nature of our historical facades in downtown St. Joe. So it does have some features that we're actually implementing today. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'd be concerned that it's 15 years old, and what does it look like today in our evolving kind of landscape downtown?
Yeah, that's a good point. So one of the tasks that we were hoping to do this winter was to take a look at some of those plans on that as well, and try and see what we can modernize or update to the current landscape.
And maybe the comprehensive plan does some of that. Yeah, John?
Yeah, my question is, what were some of those concerns? Was it from residents from across some of those neighborhoods, or?
So I think some of it was most of it was related to some of the lighting concerns and the brightness. I know we do regulate a lot of that right now with our signage code, but you get 1 and then 2 and then 3 in the downtown, it kind of changes that character of the downtown, where you have a different format of sign than what is or historically been allowed in the downtown area.
Yeah, and John, I'm on record for wanting to preempt any business or church or any other, like a house or a resident, to have a dynamic sign in and around Minnesota Street or downtown. They serve their purpose, like when they're out on County Road 75 and it's a billboard, kitty corner from, we're across from Neighbors there, that one dynamic sign. But I just think, Bob, to your point, we both agreed that the parklet doesn't really fit in well with downtown.
Right, yeah.
And so there's just a certain type of
appeal or look that downtown has, that I personally would not want to see dynamic signs going up to begin what I would call light pollution and just taking away from what we have as far as I'll use the word traditional looking downtown. Quaint. Yeah, I like quaint.
Norman Rockwell?
So it's kind of a preemptive. It's not because some business wants to do it, it's just being on record that, or putting in the code that we're not gonna have that type of signage in the downtown area.
And you're just, you're just saying for the B1 zone, you're not saying, which is B2 and B2 zone, which is pretty much down 75 is what you're saying, correct? That would be okay for dynamic signs.
Yeah, so B2 is still okay, B3 is still okay, industrial park is still okay for dynamic signs. So, yeah, correct, it would just be the B1 in the downtown service area.
Other questions or concerns? Motion and second, resolution 2021-11, amending the ordinance 502. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails 4-1. And then I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2021-43, approving summary publication.
Second.
Motion and second, resolution 2021-43, summary publication. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. Number 8, sale of property.
Yeah, so this last spring, you had approved moving forward with the RFP process for the renovation and sale of the old police station and fire hall buildings located across from St. Joe Meat Market. At your June 21st meeting, you approved moving forward with drafting a purchase agreement with Shannon Wigger, contingent on input from the EDA. The EDA did hear from Shannon, and she shared her concept, and they support the sale and renovation proposed by Ms. Wigger. At your last meeting, you had a closed session on July 19th to review the terms of the draft purchase agreement. The attorney has also reviewed that. So before you tonight is a resolution 2021-044, approving the purchase agreement. And then the second motion that we would ask you to take tonight would be to approve SEH to complete the survey and prepare the plat.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution 2021-044 for approval.
Motion and second, excuse me, motion and second. 2021-44, purchase agreement. Questions or concerns? So I have a couple. Number one, some of the concerns, not necessarily was it a great project or anything like that, but was how are you gonna address parking? Because if you don't address it, they'll start parking across the street in somebody else's non-public lot. And number two, how are you gonna express design, knowing that windows would now be facing residential areas? And I know that's not in the purchase agreement, but I didn't see any resolution to those two things that city council brought up.
I believe we discussed that last time, and that would all be covered in the developer's
Is that where you're
agreement.
gonna put
That
it?
is correct.
Okay, very good. Motion and second, resolution 2021-44. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 9, community center architect.
Before we move on, I would ask from the second motion to approve SEH to prepare to do the survey and prepare the plat.
Sorry, I didn't say that.
Is that on there?
It's a second, it was two
Oh.
separate
Yeah,
motions.
sorry.
So moved.
And
Was that 45? Or just-
It's actually not part of a resolution, it was just to make a motion to approve SEH to prepare that.
Okay, motion and second, is there a second? Motion and second to allow SEH to approve, or to provide that? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Sorry. All right, now we're on number 9.
Yes, so at your meeting on July 6th, you had discussed the proposals and moved to table any decision, and you had directed staff to obtain more detailed fee information from HGA. And then the following meeting on the 19th, you discussed the proposals again, and you directed staff to obtain more detailed fee information from HMA. So that has been provided to you. You are obviously aware that the Community Center Committee is recommending that you move forward with HGA. That's highlighted the reasons within the staff report. For your consideration this evening is to consider approving HGA as recommended by the Community Center Committee, contingent on an approved contract by the City Council, or to provide further input and direction to staff on the matter.
Well, I'll go. Number one, Frank, I've been on the committee longer than you. Oh, yeah, a lot longer than you. And so I've been through a lot of committees and a lot of meetings and a lot of discussion. And I agree with you, it's time to go. It is. But at the same time, there's a lot of things I look at that are just not black and white, dollars and cents. I'm looking at some of the historical features that we have with HMA, and I agree, HGA did a great job. They presented a kind of a diamond in the rough here. But at the same time, I think one of the recommendations that we got was from the YMCA, who has partnered with HMA, and we know that they're gonna be a partner with this building as well. That, to me, that speaks volumes about how we can partner, both from an architect perspective and potentially a fundraising perspective. My motion is, while I appreciate everybody, all four, there were no bad choices in this. There were absolutely no bad choices. And I do appreciate the work at the community center, no doubt about it. My motion is to move forward with HMA and direct staff to, I don't know, work on a contract, I guess.
Second?
Motion and second, move forward with HMA as community center architect. Discussion, yeah, Bob.
Actually, my pick was JLT.
Mine
or
was,
GLT, whatever.
yeah, mine was
That was my pick coming out of
I like
you know,
GLT.
Then the controversy of HGA and HME and, you know, and one thing that stood out with me is the local. I mean, I've been around for too long probably, but it's very important to stay local. You know, that has a lot to do with
I mean,
the
I'll
local
repeat myself, there was
contractors.
no presentation that was bad, and I think
Right,
any one of the
exactly.
architects presenting would do a great job and work with the community.
And I'm probably the only one that considered JLT.
No, Bob, I was right up there with you on GLT.
But anyway, that's beside the point.
Okay,
I don't see no support for if I move with JLT or muddle up the water. But anyway, after looking at HMA, and I've dealt with HMA in the past with our other, you know, fiasco, I'll use that word. You know, define it yourself. But they already have a leg up with already been there. Just to reorganize, and, you know, we've learned a lot in the last, 2 years, 3 years, whatever
Yeah.
it's been, you know, so, yeah, I would have to support HMA.
and again, I would hope, you guys are both on the committee, I was on the committee, I've been on the
Right.
committee a long time.
And, thank you. Thank you. I always forget to turn that on.
Again,
Could I
was
add- could I add
appreciative
to
at
mine?
first.
yeah, go ahead,
Could
Kelly.
you
I
wanna
add to mine?
finish?
Based upon their previous experience with us and they're a local company, which will use local contractors, et cetera.
Okay, Kelly, thank
Thank
you.
you. I was grateful. At first, I wasn't, but I was kind of grateful that you guys wanted to table it and bring it, and so we can really look at it a little bit better. The cream that had rose to the top was HGA and HMA, who are actually here, both of them. And I got the time to do research and do diligent research, and I called a lot of the jobs that they had done. And really, telling you, it was actually harder because I heard a lot of positives on both sides. And one thing, though, that had been brought to me on the HMA was that Murray was retiring, and I called him personally. and had spoke with him and asked him, I need to hear from the horse's mouth, and he said, yep. However, he said, I want to share is that he would stick with the project. And of course, you know, he says history, you know, can't predict how long it's gonna take us on this end. However, Tim is here with him, and that would be partnering. Now, I also looked on the other side and called all the projects, and I also talked with and called Nancy and Glenn. Me, the front runner was HGA because I really loved working with and stepping into the community. But I also loved HMA because they've got history, you know, they've got local, they've got, and what I had heard from the larger jobs that they had done on both sides is that they each had their own ticks. So my suggestion, please forgive me, and I you know, hate to be on the fence, but actually there was a suggestion from one of the vice presidents from Centricare, and he said maybe bring the two of them together and have HGA design and HMA finish, and see if that would be a possibility on that end. I love both of them. I love both and what they have to bring to the table. It really was hard, but I was grateful for the time because I was really, really leaning, and I got to, as much as I'm local, I didn't get to really see a lot of the jobs of HMA. And this gave me a chance to be able to see both spectrums because I have seen HGA and I have seen their work and been in it in that. And so to be able to physically get into HMA and actually talk with them, I like both of them. And that would be my suggestion is design and then actually collaborate with HMA because they're local. And then I know that they would work together.
Josh, guys, John.
Close.
John, sorry.
You know,
I didn't call you Brian, though.
What?
I didn't call you Brian.
Yeah, that's good. You know, I've only been on the community center for a short period of time. And in the time, you know, from me and my wife moving here in 2015, hearing about this, it seems like, oh, it's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen, it's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen, and now it seems kind of on the forefront, and I agree with Kelly, every one of the four that presented did an amazing job. And being a part of it, it was one and a close second, either or, back and forth, you both presented great. It comes back down to, are we just gonna get this done? We have to pick someone. And I would pick both of you in a heartbeat. I like your idea of trying to go together, but I don't think that's probably feasible and we can do that. You know, it's one of those two where I think both of you presented to where, oh, is the YMCA gonna be a part of this or isn't gonna be a part of it? You know, as the committee sitting there, it's, okay, that might play a different role. You know, no offense to HGA, you haven't worked with them as HMA did. And I think if we would have known some of that information prior to, it might have swayed some of the people that you presented to. You know, some of the stuff in public record of Murray, when you wrote some of the stuff after that fact, first time me reading it, I wish you would have presented more of that during your presentation. And again, being new and fresh to that appeal, I didn't know what you did do, right? Which is still a lot of work. You know, and I think some of the people on the committee, you had HJ, who was a fresh perspective, not saying yours wasn't, but I liked what you also said in the letter is that you'll still take a completely new look on it. And that's what I appreciated after the fact, that you'd still be willing to negotiate that. Now hearing from Kelly that you're gonna retire, but you'd see the project through, that speaks numbers to me at least. It doesn't degrade anything from you guys at all either. It's a tough decision, but coming on the committee and being new to it and now being here, I just wanna break ground and I wanna get something done for St. Joseph. And that's really my perspective too, so.
Motion and second, move forward with HMA as our architect of choice. Any
Was
other?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Was there any questions on if they're here, is there any questions on the money area that you had concerns
don't.
about? Okay.
No, I don't have any. I read it.
Motion and second, HMA as community center architect of choice. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You have made a mockery out of the committee.
Item 10, engineer reports.
You didn't hear it? You have made a mockery out of the committee.
Item 10, engineer reports.
Good evening. Just a brief update regarding the 2021 improvements. Staff met with C&L Excavating last Thursday for the pre-construction conference. They are anticipating beginning work likely in the alley areas, so the Block 7, Block 8 alley areas, perhaps as soon as August, the week of August 9th. The reason I say a qualifier is that, as you've heard, with other contractors experiencing some supply chain and material delivery issues, it's still a bit of a question whether or not some of the product will be available. So their schedule indicates week of August 19th. They'd like to start the week of August 9th, and so it's a little bit in a state of flux. So hopefully it's one of those two, but they intend to start shortly. Focusing on the alley areas, and then that will broaden into the Northland neighborhood and then to the 20th Avenue East area. So we'll get a newsletter starting. We're actually working on it now. We're working on the contracts with C&L, so you'll see a lot more activity here within likely the next 2 weeks.
Go ahead, Bob. Yeah.
I'm gonna address the issues from a comments today by Mr. Borsch.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up at the intersection you said.
Right,
Yeah.
now there was another issue, was the alley going east and west behind all the properties there on block, whatever it is. Wouldn't it be advisable to put curbing on that alley, because we've got water that comes down there, we have parking that goes there, in order to save the bituminous from breaking up, and it will, because of erosion and water and everything else? Wouldn't it be wise to put let's say from the end of the pump house or of the city's property, to put curbing there to direct the water down towards the ballpark? Around the corner, we just stuck a lot of money into redoing that hill with no curbing, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of water that comes down there throughout the year to escape the erosion that will happen in 2 to 3 years on that corner, on that hill.
So a couple things regarding at least the design. So the alleys have been paved at least last, or 2017's project, and even in front of Millstream, or behind Millstream, is what we call kind of an inverted crown. So the alley's graded like this so that the drainage is directed to the center. Typical road where we have curb and gutter has a crown at a high point and it pushes the water to the edge. In this case, it's a V. So drainage is being picked up at the center. So in terms of curb and gutter, it actually doesn't really serve a drainage or conveyance purpose in a inverted crown perspective, because the water is getting directed to the center.
Okay.
There is additional catch basins that will be installed to intercept drainage. We're also upgrading the 2 catch basins at the entrance of the ballpark, so before it goes downhill. So we have curb and gutter being replaced at 3rd Avenue.
Yep.
Catch basins that will intercept the drainage. So to address your concern about drainage coming into the park, we are going to do some drainage improvements to intercept it. The barrier curb, really, the other concern that I heard earlier stated was parking or parking off the alley. So the barrier curb does have an impact on preventing vehicles from parking off the alley. Now, there was an acknowledgement that the corridor isn't very wide to begin with. 16-foot wide pavement, it's not as wide as a typical street. So the fact that we don't have curb and gutter allows vehicles to get off the edges. And that somewhat is by design, because we acknowledge it's not wide enough for two-way traffic. It's not a 24-foot wide road. So by putting barrier curb in, and that's certainly an option, you can tip the gutter out, you're going to restrict vehicles from being able to leave that north side pavement edge, for example. So that's certainly a council decision. If you'd like to see curb and gutter added, it can, but it wouldn't be serving any drainage purpose the way the pavement is presently designed.
But it would still preserve the asphalt.
It would help protect the edge, and that's
Right.
certainly
You
one.
wouldn't have the breaking off, because you're gonna have, otherwise people are gonna park there. And then another thought that just came to my mind is making it a one-way.
again, you'd have the same ability, just like you did for the block
Right,
east
over
of
there.
College, is to convert it to one-way, so that would be a minor amount of signing that could be added.
Okay.
That would also be an option.
That'd be an option later down the road or for discussion at some point, you know. And then the next question is, which we talked about a little earlier, was the lack of payment going west on the rest of that alley. And like I said, I respectfully disagree with not putting asphalt down. And one of the people that I represented would, you know, it doesn't make sense.
You know, we take our direction from the council. in
Right, I
terms of what
understand that, I
project
understand that,
scope
but
would
I'm
be.
just, you know, bringing up the subject so I can address it.
And I don't think we've precluded that the council would entertain an improvement on that block at some point in the future. If you recall, the project from 2017 was between Second Avenue and College. It was a two-block area. This project is a two-block area. Now, I respect what Mr. Borsch is saying in terms of, well, do it all at one time. There's always limits to the scope of a project.
Yeah.
Money is an object, and so we're not debating that it couldn't be done at some point in the future, but our direction was to limit it to block 7 and 8, and that's where
Right, but
we're
I'm
at.
just opening up for discussion that, you know, it makes sense to me just that why leave, you know, finish the project. I mean, the scope of the whole project would be to go all the way around, not leave a block and a half unpaved. To
You
me,
know,
that, you know,
Understood, and I think it was staff's understanding that you have been systematically tackling those alleys that had the most traffic or were creating the largest maintenance issues from maintaining the gravel surface. That L-shaped leg west of Third Avenue admittedly had a lower volume of traffic than what we're seeing on the other alleys, but I don't think we've written off that you wouldn't consider improving it at some
right,
point.
there's nothing underneath that stretch, right? As far as,
There is sanitary sewer underneath
but
that.
that's been cleared and cleaned and, or bagged, I should say.
So the leg west of, in fact, I can show you a map.
Yeah.
Teresa. So you still have, it's a little hard to see. These little yellow circles are manholes. So you have a manhole behind.
Back of the house, in the block, back of the yard.
In the garden area. So this block stretch here was lined, so it's still clay pipe. This was lined in 2014 with the Park Terrace improvements. And the primary reason it was lined is this is in a green area. There is no paved alley, so technically staff don't have vehicular access to access this line. Staff had explored reconstructing it. There isn't a very well-defined easement that dates back from the 60s. So the most we could accomplish if that project in 2014 was to line the sewer, line the manhole. This segment hasn't been televised, at least recently, but this was okay back in 2014. But you still have a clay sewer line in this block between west of Third Avenue. So there is still a utility purpose for that alley. And that's the only area that staff have access now to be able to clean and maintain that.
I believe in that section there was probably, what, 6 feet where it was collapsed? Or,
That was over here.
On the other side.
If you recall, there was a crossing of Fourth Avenue that actually had the hole and the pipe was collapsed. There was actually backfall on the pipe.
and that was replaced?
That was corrected,
Okay.
yes.
So I imagine in the future, if there has to be, you know, I hate to talk about the future that way, but in the future when that pipe goes bad, which is probably 20 years maybe?
The sewer line, or the line sewer? or-
Yeah, I'd say 20.
Well, the manufacturers will tell you that that it has a 50-year life, just like a new
Right, yeah.
PVC pipe,
So
I
it's,
guess.
it's good to go.
Yes.
But if that ever
So
needs
40.
to replace, I imagine those two properties would access on whatever street that is in front of their house.
Well, that is the other challenge of
The
why
other-
this had to stay in service, is that while we were able to replumb and hook up the homes at Fourth Avenue, that isn't an option available for the homes along Minnesota Street. So at least presently, you don't see a green line
Down the
running
center of
down Minnesota. So until a sewer line is constructed on Minnesota, if that's the council's decision, this line needed to remain in service. So,
And,
That's not our decision.
And that sewer line on Minnesota would probably be pushed by a sewer line going out to Gateway Commons.
Yep. Well, no.
I mean,
no,
that would be
not-
part of that project probably. I don't know.
while I'd love to say yes,
Right, I'm just
I don't think
speculating.
so.
capacity and depth is really the issue there.
Right.
Give
We
them
don't
different
have the
direction.
downstream capacity on Minnesota Street to be able
A lot to learn, Jared.
to run it out to Gateway. So, we would have the ability to, likely to reconstruct a smaller sewer on Minnesota Street, but not a trunk sewer.
Okay, okay. Or just a leg that goes into the trunk.
Because that trunk sewer now, at least that serves this area, is the one that wraps around the ball field. This is only a 12-inch sewer. If you recall, we're considering a 30-inch, 24 to 30-inch out to Gateway. So the pipe that ultimately receives this flow right here isn't large enough. So we don't have the ability to put a large pipe down Minnesota Street only because the downstream pipe that we're tying into isn't large enough.
Okay. Well, just a point of discussion that I just thought I'd bring up. I mean, I myself think it would be kind of a common sense approach to pave that rest of that alley, to eliminate the dirt, and the dirt kind of rolls into the street, and rolls into the storm sewers and clogs up the storm sewers, then they gotta jet it, and, you know, I mean, part of my goal to pave the alleys is to get rid of all the sand and dirt that end up in our storm sewers. And this is just an extension of the whole project, you know, that we started, 2-3 years ago.
We'll get to next year. Well, we've been doing it incrementally since the
Yeah.
last 3 years.
I mean, during the project, we can probably discuss at some type the merits of paving that alley. Or, I mean, because it's not a big project there.
No, I think if the council wants to entertain a change, we're always ready to address that.
Yeah,
So-
we got contingency funds in there for
Okay.
that, and, you know, depending upon
Yes.
what the costs come out.
Kevin,
So just to back up, what alley is it that these gentlemen were talking about? Show us on your map here that you were
So
gonna
the-
close off and put a curb in front of.
Oh, that's,
So, well, we
there.
weren't the only area that was changing in terms of the curb would have been that apron. Can you see my cursor on your screen by
Yeah.
chance?
yeah,
Okay.
right there.
So the apron connection at Minnesota Street, this would have been closed. This area would continue to be open for
Right.
access from the east-west perspective, but this would be the area that would not be paved
Right.
or improved with the proposed
So are
project.
we now talking about not putting that curb there? Is that what we're going with this?
That depends upon the public hearing that we're
Yeah.
gonna be having.
Okay.
we're gonna have a public
And
hearing
that's
on
block 7.
closure.
That's block 7.
Okay,
Correct.
so we're
Correct.
gonna have that public hearing, so
then
it's
go from
still
there.
an
September.
still an open question as to whether or not we curb that.
And if
Right.
the
Correct.
council wants to change direction relative to this area, it's not too late for us to react to that.
And then we're talking about this right here. You know, they're gonna probably pave up to, I don't know, 10 feet off the alley there. You know, it makes sense to.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about
Okay, yeah.
closing
Okay, well, because John isn't aware, and he can't see your finger from over there.
Why not?
Well, he can, he's looking, same, trying to figure it out, but if you keep going west.
Right.
If you keep going west, okay. Anything else for Randy here? Randy, you know, the engineer report.
I don't think so.
Okay, very good. Item 11, mayor reports 11A. So acting mayor is always a nomination, it's not an appointed position. And Brian used to be the acting mayor. So I nominate Kevin to be acting mayor. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nomination period. All those in favor of Kevin as acting mayor, please signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, you're now the acting mayor.
Thank you.
And then,
The gavel, can I just
yeah, you
try it?
can, you can try it. Here, go ahead. It works, trust me. 11B, appointments. You guys all see the new appointments? Bob, and I hear Bob is now on a joint planning board. There's a joint planning board. That boy, Bob, that was perfect timing. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Do you still, you need a motion to accept? Motion, so I'll make the motion to accept mayor appointments.
Second.
Motion and second to accept mayor appointments. Any issues or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Very good. Item 12.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. And congratulations, John.
Thank you.
That was an easy one.